what is really under Stonehenge. Now, I realise this is going to sound a little bit unusual, but bear with me for a few minutes because this didn't start as archaeology. It started as a problem in signal processing. Dr Arnold Schwarz at the Technical Institute of Munich had been working on multi-channel correlation systems, specifically how to remove wideband noise without losing weak signals. And according to his notes, he wasn't getting the stability he needed in the lab. So he went looking for it somewhere else. Around the same time, Professor Barker in Milton Keynes was working on the Open University, was working on radio frequency analysis, particularly low noise environments and reference behavior in real world conditions. The two had been in occasional contact because their fields mixed. And at some point, and this is where it gets interesting, Schwarz sent Barker a series of working sheets, not a paper, not a proposal, just fragments. Barker later said he didn't understand them at first, but there was one consistent theme running through the pages: stability. Not electronic stability, physical stability, mass, spacing, ground conditions. So Barker made a suggestion. If you're not getting stable reference, stop building one and go and find one. That led them to Wiltshire. Now, most people look at Stonehenge and see alignment and ritual and history, but Schwarz saw something else entirely. Chalk substrate, consistent moisture, predictable dielectric behaviour, and embedded within it, a set of extremely large, extremely stable reference masses, the sarsen stones. Right? And from a signal processing perspective, it's an absurd thought unless you're trying to cancel noise. So the two met on site several times over a period of weeks with some assistance. No excavation, no modification. Everything had to be passive. And what they did was deceptively simple. They placed loosely coupled inductive loop windings around 8 of the larger stones. No direct electrical connection, no amplification at the site, just these loops. And they fed those into independent channels. And back in the lab, those channels were time-aligned, phase-matched, and combined. They weren't into mono. They weren't looking for signals. They were looking for agreement. Each channel contained noise, atmospheric, man-made, broadband, but when combined correctly, the incoherent components began to cancel. Not filtered, cancelled. The stones were not receiving signals. They were agreeing on what was not a signal. And once that reference existed, they introduced a conventional antenna and compared it. And the results was described very carefully as an anomalous, quiet, shortwave environment. Signals didn't get stronger. The noise simply stopped being there. Weak transatlantic stations, maritime carriers, low power transmissions that would normally be completely lost in the hiss became readable. Barker later described it as permission, right? Not amplification, permission to hear. There was one complication. One of the stones behaved differently. During repeated measurements, one channel refused to decorrelate cleanly. Even when reduced, it continued to influence the combined results. Remove it made everything even worse. And Schwarz noted this several times. This element does not average. Barker, in a later conversation, described it more simply, like it had an opinion, right? From that point on, they stopped treating Stonehenge as a structure and started treating it as an instrument. The behaviour was also conditional. It worked best at night. Orientation mattered. Seasonal shifts had measured effects. And perhaps most importantly, it refused to behave like something you could connect to. You couldn't attach a feed line and use it. You had to compare yourself, your antenna, to it. And here's the part that is slightly uncomfortable. Modern amateur radio operators have, in fragments, rediscovered elements of this behaviour. Low noise receive systems, ground loops, buried antennas, systems that don't make signals stronger but make noise disappear. Most people accept that result without asking why it feels different, why it feels quieter than it should. Schwarz and Barker never formally published this work. The notes show iteration, rejection, abandoned geometries, and eventually a realization. It can't be replicated. It doesn't scale. You can't build it. You can only find it. Stonehenge, then, is not a transmitter. It's not even a receiver in the conventional sense. It's a reference, a place where noise agrees with itself, and in doing so, reveals everything else. Civilizations that understood noise didn't need to be loud. They only needed to listen properly. And it's funny what you notice when you stop transmitting. Anyway, I should probably start thinking about next year's April Fools, but this one was quite good fun. For those who are interested, I used automatic 1111 under stable diffusion to make the professors for me. I downloaded some pictures of Stonehenge and from Canva. And then I used WAN2GP under Pinocchio to convert it into video. And I had some quite good fun last night, frankly, doing that. All right, bit of fun, that's all. Back to reality now, chaps. All the best to you. Enjoy your radio and don't get fooled too many times. All right, bye for now.